I'm so glad to be sitting here today with a truly unusual and remarkable individual, Dr. Markus Rogan. His background, we're going to hear a little bit about, is coming from the athletic world, a gold star winner of the Olympics, and traversed into helping and saving lives through behavioral health. And without further ado, I would love to hear a little bit. First of all, thank you so much for being with us today and for joining us at the conference. We just came from a panel, and you were sharing so poignantly and so authentically, and it was actually very refreshing when people speak what's actually on their mind, when they mean what they say. But let's go back to the beginning for a little bit, because you have a little bit of an unorthodox entry into the field.
Literally, I'm an unorthodox Jew.
Very good, exactly. Interestingly enough, I'm not a big believer in labels. We tend to label people so much today, right? You're this type of person, you're that type of person, you're this type of religion, that type of sect. But you were born in Austria,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and then came here as a child.
Also,
Could tell us the whole story.
I'll tell you those.
Yeah.
I am the grandchild of Nazis. As a child, I was not born Jewish.
Wow.
Okay, as a child, my grandmother flat out said, we were at a country fair in her small village in Austria,
What was the name of the village?
Gottenau.
Gothenburg.
Salzburg.
How far from Vienna? Quite a distance. 3 hours. Okay.
And she said she felt the cake was too expensive. And
The cake.
the cake.
Yeah.
She went to the vendor and said, "Are you fucking Jewish to charge that much?"
Wow.
She had an Aryan pass and she was proud of it. Then my mother was horrified by this, and then she became a psychiatrist.
Wow.
Of course, the most Jewish profession there is. But I was not born Jewish. She is not Jewish.
Right.
I fell in love with a Jewish girl.
Wow.
She said, "I can never marry you."
Wow.
And I said, "Oh, what if I become Jewish?" And I went through the process. It's painful. It's beautiful. It's scary.
Yeah.
It's really scary.
Yeah.
And now I have so you can't Orthodox would
Right.
call me fully Jewish.
Right.
But my boys are fully Jewish.
Right.
I'm so proud of that.
Wow.
And but I do see I am unorthodox. I want to become what I really want to become as a bridge builder.
Wow.
And right now I'm really good at getting someone who wants to kill themselves off a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I can really do. Because I can imagine, I can feel, I can understand the psychological pain. And physiologically, I was a professional athlete, right? I got the strength.
Right.
If you want to jump off a bridge, I'm going to stop you.
Right. Right. That's an amazing story. What shifted? When did you decide enough with athletics, and I want to, instead of focusing really on the physical prowess of my body, I want to dedicate my life to helping weaker souls?
Well, I'd love to accept your hero's invitation to be like, I'm the hero who helps weaker souls, but I want to be clear, the doctor is nothing without patients.
Right.
Right? I think we have to really look at that sometimes, especially in the field of mental health, we create our own patients because we are afraid to become obsolete.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I stopped being a professional athlete, well, honestly, when I wasn't good enough anymore. Right? If I was as good as, let's say, someone like Tom Brady and could play to my 40s, I probably would have.
Mm.
But instead, I saw that the physical will only get you so far. For a brief moment, I was the best in the world.
Right.
I was like, yes.
Yeah.
But it turns out then there's the younger one, the hungrier one,
That's
the
right.
fitter one.
That's right.
So then I saw, okay, the hero in a way is a type of boy.
Yeah.
Right? The man, I think, is more of a guide, of a king, not the knight, right? The knight is kind of like
shining armor, swooping in.
Right. I want to be more like the king, the connector, maybe a little bit of magician, getting people together and and helping others rise. That feels, for one, it's more sustainable, right? There's if I do it right, there's no expiration date, right? My body's not going to give out on that like it did on the Olympic level. And it actually fills me up more.
That's beautiful. In general, I think there's a beautiful sort of litmus test to determine what's temporarily stimulating and pleasure-filling, or what is something that has more emotional satiation and long-term inner contentedness and fulfillment. Is it's the ooh ah or ah ooh. What does that mean? It's like when something is very enjoyable and it's and the next day you wake up and it's like, ooh, what did I just do? That's the wrong path. But at first comes the ooh, the discomfort and the toil, the exertion. And then comes the I got the degree. I had that child. I brought up that child. I built that career. I have a list of clients whose lives I've saved.
I would take it one step further. A deep marriage is a lot of ooh.
Yeah.
But when you're able to look your betrothed in the eye and just tell the truth and the full truth, it's a true ah.
It's a true ah. And part of that is because all of you is there. We don't realize how fragmented we are. And the forehead allows us to inside, outside worlds. And if everybody would know everything we're thinking at all times, it's be a very dangerous world to live in.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're constantly concealing and bifurcating and fragmenting these different parts of ourselves, the good, the bad, the ugly. And even in those, we're creating different categories. And so when you look at somebody in the eye and your whole truth is present, the ah comes from just the simplicity of not needing to compartmentalize. Such a powerful,
fake it.
Not needing to fake it. Such a powerful experience.
It's all the ooh worth it.
Yes, yes, yes. Thomas Merton once said, so many people spend their lives climbing up the ladder of success, only to realize once they've reached the top that it was facing the wrong wall. But what you've done is you've still had the chance to just say, all right, I'm going to put it to a different side, and I'm just going to climb right up. That's a unique gift.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that. I don't know if I was like at the top and was like, oh, now I'm going to go to the next one. No. I was like at the top, desperately trying to stay at the top. I was like, oh, how can I train harder? How much more can I do? I literally went to the edge of legality, right? This in professional sports, that's an open secret. You get offered performance-enhancing drugs all the time. And I was like, what is the last most powerful legal thing I can do? And then after that, I was like, okay, that's all I got. That's all I got. And then I realized, like, I was number one in the world in 2008. I had a brief moment of number one in the world in 2009, but by 2010 I was only second in the world. 2011 I was then fourth, right?
Even though that's something that people who dream about, being the fourth, when you're number one and it's down, it's crushing.
Right, and then
it's crushing.
The as I was climbing the other ladder, those bottom steps, the ego hurt.
That's a toughie.
My God.
That's a toughie. And so you had to deal with this inner existential crisis.
Absolutely.
Because up until that point, you were very focused on being the number one in the world.
We're very focused and very rewarded.
And very rewarded.
I got so much reward.
Yes. Validation.
Yes. Money, sex, and validation.
Yes. And it's a dopamine rush. And now you're like, well, that's a lot of
Yeah.
It's also a lot of the next morning. Ooh, what happened? Yeah. And so...
Well, but you have no one to tell you that it was ooh.
That's right.
Right? And the next morning, you already have the next people telling you, oh.
That's right.
That's the problem with fame.
Right.
That everyone tells you you're great.
So interesting. And so did you always know that you were going to go into a healing position, or was it just something that sort of evolved organically in your own journey? I mean, your mother's a psychiatrist, so it's not foreign.
Yeah. Well, but I thought it was total bullshit. It's like such nonsense. until I had a fantastic psychologist. I had just a fantastic psychologist and then it was clear that's exactly what I want to do.
Wow. That's amazing. And you're dealing with the demographic that you know so well experientially as an athlete.
Yeah. And athletes, right, they really struggle with that because you achieve everything you think athletic training is really hard. And yes, it is. Okay, yes, it's hard to become the best in the world at a sport, but it's also so short, right? You are the best by the time, like, you really, around your peers, by the time you're 18, you're one of the best 18-year-olds. By the time you're 25, when everyone else, like, let's say in an academic profession, is like making $0, like toiling away in like nameless research, like underground bunkers, basically, right? You're making millions of dollars, right? So we think of it, we give athletes this credit as if they're the hardest working people on the planet, but the truth is they reach their peak
Very
so
early.
much earlier.
That's so
It's with actually less ooh.
That's very
I promise you, it's less ooh to become, in my case, the best swimmer in the world than it is to become a really good professor.
Wow.
Right? There's more ooh
you
have to face
Yeah.
in the academic world.
Very, very interesting. And the fact is that when there's less toil and exertion, it's the easier route. And when we're used to taking the easier route, and then we just hit this like midlife crisis at 35
or
25, wow, what do we do there? And you alluded to this earlier, but it very much aligns with something that I feel is a national epidemic. We have a crisis of identity.
Absolutely.
And because there's such a critical lack of intrinsic existential validation and affirmation, which means in layman's language that I'm enough. I don't need outside people, places, or things to make me feel valuable, to make me feel necessary and relevant. I don't need that. By virtue of my existence, I matter. Then we can appreciate the journey of life. You see, most people look at life as an Uber ride. It's just from here to there. And so everything in between is an inconvenience at best and frustrating in the worst case. But life is more like a cruise when you're internally satiated, where the journey is the destination, enjoying every day, because we only parent our children for 10, 15 years. If those are the years that we're so busy making money, by the time we have it, they're out of the house, we have nobody to spend it on. And they grew up with absent parents. And so that's just one example of if we're not really taking every day of the journey into account, just really relishing, enjoying, and celebrating it. And so all of that, I think, stems from, if I'm not going to be a somebody until I make a certain financial threshold, I'm confusing net worth and self-worth, then I'm going to feel inadequate, insecure, with all of the character flaws that are associated with that. And I'm going to have a critical deficiency in my life until I get that threshold. What a miserable way to live our prime.
That's an Uber ride.
That's an Uber ride.
Yeah.
And so
an Uber ride in a not good enough car.
Yes, never enough. I think it was Joseph Heller, who was a novelist, who was once at a hedge fund manager's party, and the hedge fund manager makes fun of him to a friend of his, and he says, I make more than this fellow's magnum opus. You know that story?
This one is fantastic. Oh, I love it. Just tell it.
He says, I make more than he made from his magnum opus in one day. And what did he say? I have something you're never going to have. What is it?
Enough. That's it. Yeah.
And that's why, even though, The Greatest Showman has one of the greatest songs of all time, but I don't like one of the words, never enough.
Right.
Because that's so problematic. So tell me a little bit about your brand of therapy and what makes, your experience, because I look at you and I see somebody who isn't bifurcated, who brings their entire humanity, your entire narrative into the therapeutic process. You do that. You're not bifurcated. So, and I think that makes for such a unique cornucopia, such a unique recipe. So tell me a little bit about that.
So I do believe that ultimately we're not. Well, I'll tell you a story. You told me the beautiful story about it enough. Okay, this is Master Lodi. Okay, two by Hermann Hesse. Two master teachers live at the opposite side of a desert. Okay, they're the undisputed masters of the area, and everyone comes to them to be taught. But they both feel like, ooh, I'm not enough. I heard about this other teacher, right? They know about each other. That I'm going to go there and learn. And they at the same time get on their camels and they go through the desert to visit the other. By pure coincidence, they meet an oasis in the middle at a well, at a spring, right? And they start talking. And here's the one difference. One says, hey, I'm looking to be a student. And the other says, well, I'm a teacher. And then they have that relationship, right? But who learns more? And I think the brand of therapy I'm trying to do is that it's a total fucking coincidence who's the doctor and who's the patient.
Interesting. Wow. And that resonates with the athletes.
Well, it's sometimes scary, right?
Yeah.
And then it can get complicated because but hold on, I'm still expecting payment, right? Like how do you work that out?
You have to see. There's a bit from Jackie Mason on a psychiatrist. You gotta watch. It's just hilarious.
Yeah.
He starts saying, getting into, I'm here to find the real me, but what's if I don't want to find the real me? What's if I'm doing great without him? What's if it turns out that the real me is you and I'm the real you and now you owe me money? Yeah, the whole bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that could, because that is an interesting exploration that transcends boundaries, but then we have to go back into the boundaries.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, and then ultimately, especially when you're dealing with someone suicidal, right? There are times you have to hospitalize them. Right?
Yeah.
I have to lean into authority.
Wow.
Right?
What's your number one technique?
Oh.
If you had one technique that you could take to a desert island.
Well, no, I tell you, unfortunately, actually an island, yes, absolutely an island. I think that you should, if you experience any form of anxiety or anything that doesn't feel right, I would go in the water, could be mikveh, could be bathtub, could be just a sink, or on the desert island, just go off the island, right? Just, and breathe out into the water.
Breathe out.
Because it will regulate and it will make the breath out longer.
Wow.
And that, I think, is the cause of so much pain, that we rush the breath.
Wow.
And if we breathe out longer, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It allows us to regulate and allows us to get more grounded.
Wow, and that's something everybody can do.
Yeah.
By
Especially on
themselves.
desert island.
Especially on a desert.
Right? The water's all everywhere.
Thank you so much for joining.